So circadian rhythms are your natural sleep-wake cycles. And everybody's are a little different, but we're all entrained by light. So when it's light out, we tend to have wakefulness. When it's dark out, we don't need to be wakeful and running around and hunting and eating and doing that. We need to go to sleep, right? We have to go to sleep at night. So for the most part, we have wakefulness when it's bright and sleepiness when it's dark. Everybody's are a little different though. You know, some people are like morning people. Like 5 o'clock in the morning, they're like, let's go. That's not me. That is absolutely not me. And my kids are like split. Some are like me, some are not. The ones that are not, I'm like, go do your own thing and leave mommy alone in the morning when you get up. Just play on your phone. I don't care. Don't wake me up at 6 o'clock on a Saturday. Some people's circadian rhythms they are morning people. They're ready to go. They're fired up at 6 a.m. Do birds are chirping? They're up. So, but in general, we have the sleep-wakeful cycles, right? And we get hungry at certain times, and we get sleepy at certain times. That's all part of that. Melatonin is actually linked to puberty, so you have higher secretion of melatonin and more secretion of melatonin at night when you're going through puberty. I don't know if you guys remember going through puberty. Probably do. Do you remember you want to sleep more? Didn't you just want to sleep till like noon? Then you just, I'd have Saturdays where I'd be sleeping at 1 o'clock. I'm like, oh my God, what day is it? I wake up like out of a hole. Mom's like, man, you were sleeping forever. It's melatonin production is ramping up along with all your other sex steroids and everything else that's ramping up. So you need rest. The brain needs rest. A lot of that's happening while you're sleeping. It's also linked to jet lag. And it's also linked to seasonal affective disorder. If you are not getting enough light and you're losing the amount of light, the photoperiod shrinks, especially if you live somewhere very north or very like near the poles, right? And you don't get a lot of light, ultimately that could lead to that SAD, seasonal affective disorder we talked about. So melatonin levels are sort of disrupted because you don't have as much light. So you're sleepy, you're lethargic, it starts to affect mood. It affects mood and sort of different mood disorders. Jet lag, of course, if I go somewhere and they're 12 hours ahead, and my hypothalamus and my eyes are taking in the light information, and my pineal gland is secreting melatonin on a certain rhythm, and then I go back 12 hours to where I'm from, my pineal gland is still sort of doing the old circadian, pumping out the melatonin on the old cycle. It takes me a few days to get back to my new. Some people will take sleep aids, they'll do melatonin supplements, they'll do insomnia type drugs. I would say if at all possible, try to avoid those because they have addictive properties to them. You start getting dependent on those for your melatonin blast and to be able to sleep. So they are needed in certain situations, but I would say just be careful. If you just have a hard time sleeping or you have jet lag or you can usually adapt back to that normal situation. And sometimes it's linked to other mood disorders and other things that if you take care of those, the sleep and the circadian rhythm will fall back into place. But yeah, your body does start to get dependent on them. You will start relying on that to be able to sleep normally and enough. So what happens is your eyeballs through the retina, we have nerves that go back, ultimately tell the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus through a series of tracts tells the pineal. Pineal gland is right back here, that little pine cone mini-shaped structure. During the day, comes in and actually inhibits that pathway. It goes, nope, no melatonin secretion. Hypothalamus does not tell the pineal gland to go. Okay, so shut off, inhibited, red. Stimulated at night when it's dark, it actually now there's darkness, so your retina, your eyeballs are not getting a lot of light. It's dark. That actually says, okay, activate hypothalamic pathway going to pineal, start pumping out melatonin. Melatonin makes you sleepy, makes you go night-night, right? So you can shut down and go to sleep. We need to go to sleep. A lot of decades, hundreds of years, we didn't know why we needed to go to sleep, but we have to go to sleep. Because what we know now is sleep is really, really important for clearing out, getting rid of the gunk and the proteins and the breakdown products and the byproducts of metabolism, clearing all that out and sort of sweeping up. It's almost like street sweeping happens at night in your brain and in your neurons. This is one thing that's come out in the last 5 years. And if you don't sleep enough, you can't clear all those aggregated proteins and byproducts and waste. And it gunks up and it messes up your cognition and your mood and your functioning. You're at more predisposed risk for things like neurodegenerative disorders, even things like Alzheimer's, with not enough sleep. So it's important. You have to clear and do all that stuff. So melatonin is not produced with daytime or light stimulation. It is produced with lack of light, so darkness, and this is why people that live at high latitudes, so way up north, like Arctic areas, they have to foil up and close up their houses, right? So at night, they actually have darkness that's simulated so that they can make melatonin and go to sleep. Otherwise, they can't. It's very hard to go to sleep, and everything would be very disrupted. Is there a question about that? Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if you just, like, if someone just starts waking up at 5 a.m., will your circadian rhythm just adjust to that? Or, like how does
Yes.
that work?
Yes, you can teach your circadian rhythm to change. So you naturally have melatonin production and then lack of production at certain times. But if you go to a new time zone, or you're somewhere else, or you start for work waking up really, really early, and then you're tired at night so you go to bed earlier, you can entrain yourself onto new circadian rhythms. Okay, so you can do that. You can, mind over matter. You have to, okay, I gotta get up and swim at 5:30 in the morning. Man, this sucks, okay, but I wanna do it. So you can do it. Now, but if you let yourself and you don't have those obligations, you will kind of naturally fall back into your natural innate circadian rhythm. Yes, Jackie?
So is that why, like, so I used to do rowing.
Yep.
And we had to be
Early.
up at 5, and
Yep.
every single day, like, I would get up, once, like, we started constantly having to get up at 5, I would get up before my alarm,
Mhm.
but now I don't have to do that.
Oh, so you probably don't wake up at all now.
Like, in the beginning, I would wake up at 5
Yeah.
when summer hit, and I was like,
Mhm.
like, why am I up? But now it's like, I'll still get up at like 6:30,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like, I can go back to bed compared to before. Once I was up, I was like, up. So is that like why?
Yep, you've entrained yourself on a new rhythm, and then you're out of that rhythm, and so your body will go back to where you sort of naturally are. It's plain and simple. So it's just like when you go to a new country, you have to adapt to that new country's time zone. You can't sleep all day. You'll miss everything, right? So you have to, and you can do it. It's with the light and the dark patterns, you can do it with melatonin. So there was some experimental studies. This is right from your textbook. Melatonin production also changes by season. So in the winter, we have a bigger darkness period. So our photo period shrinks down. It changes. We have less light and more dark. We have greater bouts of melatonin secretion. In the summer, we've got a bigger photo period of light and smaller amount of darkness. So it shrinks down. You have less melatonin production in the summer. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm sleepy. In the fall and winter, I just want to have like a pumpkin spice latte and like go night-night. I'm like, I mean, and they kind of contradict each other, but I'm tired, I'm sleepy. I'm like, it's because your melatonin, you're getting bigger windows of melatonin production in the fall and in the winter compared to like the summer. Summer, I can wake up early. It's hot anyways. I'm like, it's hot. Let's go to the beach. So melatonin affects all of those things, and it's basically entrained by light. So it's entrained by light. Yeah, I gotta get finished. So let me keep moving on because we're almost done here. Other endocrine organs. These are structures in your body that are not really endocrine glands, but they secrete hormones that are important in various pathways. Your GI tract, like I brought in, I'll show you this model here. Your GI tract actually makes a whole bunch of different hormones that are coming from like your small intestine right here and shoving into this spot right here. Your stomach itself, this is the inner lining of the stomach. You have lots of different types of cells that produce hormones and they dump hormones in. We already talked about pancreas and blood sugar regulation. So the small intestine and the stomach, they make lots of different hormones. Gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, motilin, that causes motility of the GI tract. Ghrelin, I mentioned this one before, but that one comes right from the stomach, and that makes you hungry. Stomach will start pumping out ghrelin hormone, goes in your bloodstream, and that actually tells your brain, ooh, you're hungry. I consider this sort of the stomach growling, or the gremlin hormone. And actually, it's interesting, because ghrelin, the gremlin hormone, it spikes right before you're hungry, so like midday, and then again in the evening. And then if you were to stay up, remember if you do like an all-night study powwow, and you're up at like 1 or 2 in the morning, you're like, I'm hungry. Ghrelin is up right at that time. So normally you're sleeping, your butt's out because of the melatonin. But if you're awake, your circadian rhythm is like, oh, we need to eat. We have to eat. Now we're up for another 8 hours. Let's make a burrito. So sometimes that happens. Okay, so ghrelin is important. It comes from the stomach. Gonads, we'll talk about these next time. On Friday, we'll get into puberty and sex steroids. We'll talk all about those and how they regulate gamete production and puberty. I'll talk about puberty on Friday. Placenta, this is what sustains the fetus. It makes all kinds of really important hormones. Progesterone, estradiol, human chorionic gonadotropin, I know that's a weird one. HCG, or human chorionic gonadotropin, this one is actually what we detect in pee to definitively figure out if a woman's pregnant. The urine test for human chorionic gonadotropin. It's coming from the placenta, the early placenta. And also relaxin. Relaxin is a hormone made usually in the later stages too of the pregnancy. Helps to relax and loosen up the ligaments right before childbirth and delivery. So that process is a little bit easier. We also have some other structures. The kidneys make two hormones that are really important. One is renin and one is erythropoietin. Erythropoietin I actually have in your lab packet for lab number 4, the blood cell and blood chemistry packet. Your kidneys, when red blood cells are low or when oxygen levels are low, like if you were to go to high altitude, you go somewhere with less oxygen in the atmosphere, your kidneys will start spitting out a lot of erythropoietin. What does that sound like? Red blood cells or erythrocytes. Poietin is the stimulation of those. It causes your bone marrow to start making more red blood cells. So when you have low oxygen in your system or you're exposed to a low oxygen environment, your kidneys will start making erythropoietin to make more red blood cells so that you can carry more oxygen per unit of blood. The other one, renin, is involved in salt and water balance. So that is a day-to-day operation of the kidneys, allowing your body to have salt and water balance in effect. Your skin, we've already talked about this, it makes a precursor of vitamin D, right? So a little bit of sunlight causes enzymes in the skin cells to make a precursor of vitamin D. Your bone makes osteocalcin and a bunch of other hormones. Your fats, and we'll talk about this when we talk about puberty on Friday. We're going to talk about chromosomal syndromes and diseases and stuff on Wednesday, and then on Friday we'll get into puberty. But your adipocytes, your fat, make leptin. And leptin actually affects your reproductive system and affects your body fat regulation and hunger. So we'll talk about the leptin hunger hormone a little bit later. So this is just for you to look over. Really, it's just an endocrine, gland, and hormone giant table that puts down the type of cell or organ, what the major hormones are, what their target organs are, and then what their effects are. I like it because it kind of just goes through everything. So when you're building your flashcards, if you're not already, you can use this to kind of check a little cheat sheet, like make sure you're learning. I know it's a lot. The endocrine system is a lot. It's very cool information, and it regulates a lot about you, but it takes some work to learn it. So it will take effort and flashcards learning it. Okay, I will see all of you Wednesday. Yes, Sarah, you have a question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that why if you like oversleep, you're tired? Like I'm more tired than like sometimes if I like
Yes,
sleep.
sometimes you mess up your circadian rhythm, and you sleeping too much actually makes you more sleepy.
Okay, yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
sometimes
you're-
I'll like get a lot of hours of sleep and then I wake up and
Yeah.
like I just want to go back to sleep.
Yes, you sort of messed up the normal secretion pattern of melatonin.
What about when you take a nap? Because I took
Naps are sometimes really good, because sometimes you're just exhausted, you just need a little power nap, you just gotta reset, and then,
I've
so
done that.
naps can be good.
And then I've taken like a 2-hour nap and I'm like, I can't sleep now.
Yeah, right, if it's too long, sometimes if it's too long.